Salute, salute, salute. Your boy Gmo, Legion of Knicks, here to talk about the areas of improvement for each of the young players, well, each of the players in our young core. Guys like RJ Barrett, Immanuel Quicklly, Quentin Grimes, and Mitchell Robinson. The Knicks are looking to get back into the deeper rounds of the playoffs. It's a pivotal season for us. You're going to have the Jalen Brunson timer ticking now. Everybody seeing what he's doing on the world stage with Team USA, as well as what he did last year for the Knicks. You got Steve Kerr giving all these accolades, and he could definitely use Jalen Brunson as a succession plan to the Steph Curry era, which is coming to an end, or probably going to come to an end relatively soon, which is kind of sad. But the Knicks, do we go for the disgruntled star in Joel Embiid? Who goes? If we don't, is this young core good enough to help lead the squad into an even ECF appearance? So I'm going to talk about some of the areas of improvement I think some of these young players can look to focus on to take them to that next level, to become the so-called 20 and 10s or the starting guard potential type of guys. So we're going to talk about this on this video, but before we get started, make sure to hit the like, subscribe to the channel, make sure to hit the darn notification bell so you get each and every notification for each and every video I put out there. I know I kind of garbled that. And by the way, we got a new sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to bet on sports. Underdog, you can bet with the pick'em game, where you can bet up from 2 to 5 players and bet on whether they have higher or lower stats. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game, by the way. You can also do a pick'em game or a rivals game where you pit 2 players against each other to bet on whether one player is going to have a higher stat total than the other in certain categories. With the NBA season coming up, why not make some good money? And by the way, I'll be making some bets on Underdog Fantasy as well too. I'll be showcasing bets here, and for the bets that I do win, I'll be using that money to raffle off some Knicks gifts to you guys. So please stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Discord. We'll be having more in-depth analyses on the bets, and I'll be showing the bets. We can talk about it a lot more there. And if you use the code Legion or LOK, you can get matched up to $100 of your first deposit with Underdog Fantasy. Again, use the code word Legion or LOK using a sign I'm gonna have in the description box for this video, and you get matched up to $100 of your first deposit. Underdog, are you under the dog? I tried, man. That was a terrible slogan. I apologize, guys. But please go to Underdog, use the code LOK Legion, and get up to $100 matched up on your first deposit. And without further ado, guys, hit that rock. So the spotlight is going to be on RJ Barrett, probably the biggest question mark on his team in terms of young talent. Does he stay? Does he go? Immanuel Quickley, is he truly worth $20 million? Is he good enough a starter where you invest in him and you have him as your so-called bench bully, your Derrick Rose, your off guard, maybe of the future, playing alongside of Jalen Brunson, and maybe taking his spot if Jalen Brunson does decide to leave. Quentin Grimes, is he anything more than a 3-and-D player? And Mitchell Robinson, is he anything more than just a rim-running, paint-defending big? And so we're going to talk about the improvements. And first, we're going to start off with RJ Barrett, my son, who I still think is going to be traded, but there's a lot you can speak on now. I can speak on the three-point shooting, especially the catch and shoot ability, which has been shaky at best, all except for his sophomore season. I could talk about his post-up game, which has been below average, bad footwork, bad leveraging off the body for the most part. I know what people tell me about with Team USA, but that's not the norm. That's more the exception to the rule. I can speak to his shooting off the dribble, his mid-range shooting, which is just non-existent. You know, outside that developmental season or summer that he had with Nick Nurse playing on the Team Canada, where they worked off his shooting off the dribble, as well as that little side step, three-point shot off the dribble they're working on. Other than that, really haven't seen much develop in that case. Now, I can speak on RJ Barrett. needing to devote his body to transforming it, being more pliable, yoga, Bikram, Vish. I was gonna say Vish. That's not even the right. That's not even the right term. But anything to make him become a little bit more pliable, more flexible. This robotic body, even though he's a physical player, tends to kind of break down at parts in the season. That can happen to everybody. Obviously, everyone goes through injuries. But there's a guy in RJ Barrett's had some weird joint injuries in the past, whether it be contact, whether it be not contact, but he's had some type of weird joint injuries before. Allow him to be a little bit more lateral. But that's another topic for another day. But for me, my issue with RJ Barrett has always been his inability to effectively counter defenders enough. There's a reason why RJ Barrett is elite at getting to the rim and elite at getting to the short mid-range area, but he's below average for the most part in terms of finishing at the rim as well as hitting in the short mid-range area. Even though the short mid-range area scoring has improved, it's still relatively poor, especially for the amount of times he attacks the rim. And it largely comes down to him picking up his dribble relatively early against defenders in these bad spots where he's taking these contested floaters and jumpers because he didn't create enough space, so he picked up his dribble way too early against the defender, and also trying to hit off these weird bad angles where it's an in-between shot that's supposed to be flush through the rim or slightly off the backboard. So I'm going to show a few examples of RJ Barrett picking up his dribble in disadvantageous positions and spots on the floor that lead to these terribly contested shots. Now here, RJ Barrett operating Obi Toppin, passes it back to Obi Toppin, gets it back at the top of the key. He has Zeke Nnaji on him. Now, granted, the time is winding down, but RJ Barrett could have taken the shot there, but just look where he picked up the dribble. That is an awful spot, like literally right inside of the three-point line against Zeke Nnaji, a guy who probably has the height and the length to defend RJ Barrett at the rim at this spot. And Zeke Nnaji's playing him to his left. RJ Barrett, a simple change of pace, crossover back to his right. And I'm not saying to do a UTEP two-step or something crazy, but just to bring it back to the right. You know, I don't think a UTEP two-step would have even worked in a situation even successful. But just something to change pace on Zeke Nnaji to get it to the right. Maybe Bones Highland helps out. Obi Toppin still at the top of the key. So that would have been a wide open three or an open three for for Obi Toppin to make. But just look where RJ Barrett picks up the dribble. One dribble, picks up, you can't do anything. And it ends up in a terribly missed floater off the backboard. So here's another example of RJ Barrett and the New York Knicks versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Here, RJ Barrett getting the pass at the top of the key from Julius Randle, attacking Jake LaVaria. And look where RJ Barrett picks up the dribble. 1, 2, and picks up the dribble at the foul line. Here's a few examples. One, he's way too far away from Jake LaVaria. You picked up your dribble, and Jake LaVaria could just meet you on the strides to the basket. You have no advantage or you don't have a high probability of drawing a foul here because now you're just picking up your dribble, and all he has to do is just basically close out and then guide you into Steven Adams, which he basically does here. It's not even necessarily guide him to Steven Adams. He essentially tried to use the elbow to get a better angle at the rim and kind of like contort his body for the better finish. And first of all, it did absolutely nothing because, again, the strides there, Jake LaVaria was playing away from RJ Barrett well enough before the picking up of his dribble. So, again, this leads to absolutely just nothing. Terrible shot by RJ Barrett. And people will say, oh, Steven Adams with a great help defense. No. It was RJ Barrett with a terrible decision making, picking up his dribble way too early. You want to dig your shoulder into freaking Jake LaVaria's left side, bully him a little bit to the rim, push him off, get close to the rim off the steps. Maybe have Steven Adams now trying to help out. You make that pass underneath to Mitch Robinson when Steven Adams commits on the help. But RJ Barrett did himself absolutely no favors picking up his dribble. 2 bounces inside the top of the key? Really 1 bounce, because the first bounce really didn't really do anything. It didn't really go anywhere. There's another ugly shot by RJ Barrett. So with Team Canada, it seems as RJ Barrett's been finding some success in terms of shooting the ball, attacking the basket. He had that really strong Germany game, which we're going to go over with a few clips. the other day. But to me, I feel like he actually had more development under Nick Nurse, who was working on his shooting off the dribble as well as that little sidestep three-point shot. He was practicing some mid-range jumpers as well too. Whereas with Jordi Fernandez, who spoke the world of RJ Barrett a few days ago, it seems as if RJ Barrett is doing a lot of what we've been seeing in the NBA, but for whatever reason, because of it's a different game, size advantages, and how players play, and also some of the competition, RJ Barrett just finds some success with the same type of game that he's been displaying in the NBA. And we're going to go over a few clips. So this one, RJ Barrett ends up in a post-up position. That was a nice little travel, by the way. RJ Barrett posting up. Really know where to go. Spin move. But RJ Barrett makes a tough shot. But let's be honest. Is that a shot that we think RJ Barrett's going to be making consistently in the NBA against players who are his size or have a little bit more strength than this guy for Team Germany? RJ Barrett does draw the foul, but let's be honest. I just don't see RJ Barrett consistently making that shot as contested as it was against more able, more defensively sound, or just more physical players in the NBA. And here, RJ Barrett against Team Germany. Now look where he picks up a dribble at the foul line. That's his forte. Use the arm. Now, the defender does a poor job of closing out. The help does a really poor job. I don't know what the hell this is. Got Kelly Olynyk here, but if you're going to commit, you better stop RJ Barrett, because look where he picked up his dribble. And defender, and the other ones we show, especially, well, Marco Phillips came off a screen. But the other ones we showed defenders doing a good job of closing out on RJ Barrett. And they don't now. They allow a little bit of space. It's not the worst of closeouts. Now, this play by RJ Barrett, it's not as if he got ridiculously good leverage once he used that arm here. See, arm. It's not as he got great leverage here. He just made an absurd shot. The guy still contested. RJ gets a little, well, the push of RJ gets in the air doesn't really do much. He just gets a really fortuitous angle with that left. He gets right under the arm for the defense, and that's also because the defender just did a poor job of beating RJ Barrett to the spot, because he already picked up his dribble. He picked up his dribble beyond, above the foul line. The arm actually didn't really do anything, but he just got underneath for a tough layup. Again, is it repeatable? No. Is this a new angle that RJ Barrett has learned from attacking the basket? Is this him adding counters to his move, to his attacks to the basket? No. RJ Barrett always has a plan A with the ball in his hands, but it's never really a strong plan B or plan C, i.e. counters to help him create space, or at least to continue to dribble to find better opportunities against defenders. And you can look at his numbers. Look at his average dribbles per touch, which last year came around 2.4 per touch, which puts him under other slashing wings such as Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, Austin Reeves, Franz Wagner, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jalen Williams, Terrence Mann, Tyler Hero, Norman Powell, as well as many others. And for all guards with at least 50 touches a game, RJ Barrett has a sixth least amount of average dribbles per touch, only ranking ahead of guys like Buddy Hield, who's more of a shooter and a facilitator under Rick Carlisle. Kyle Anderson is more of a role-playing glue guy. Keldon Johnson, who's probably a little more surprising to me given his role with the Spurs, but he does tend to shoot a little bit more off the dribble than, say, RJ Barrett, so he's going to pick up his dribble, and you're going to see less dribbles per touches because of it. Guys like Desmond Bane, who's more of a pure two-guard, especially when Ja Morant is there, so he's playing more off the ball as a shooter, even though he could play on the ball when, especially when Ja Morant is out, or play on the ball, period. But he typically, because of his shooting, going to see less dribbles per touches because of it. And then, of course, Ben Simmons, who dribbles per touches have just gone down for the past few years as a result of his body and overall offensive impact diminishing over time because of injuries and whatever weird circumstances he's going through. Again, my wish is not for RJ Barrett to become the next Ja Morant and be this fast, quick, lightning, athletic guard, because he's just not that. That's not his game. He's more of a physical player, but you can work the game within a game with more counters, using those counters and not just get an extra dribble, a move closer to the basket for a better angle at the rim, which of course I would love for him to use, but it's also allow him to win battles within certain small spaces against a defender, right? We're talking about working off of defenders' missteps with more counters, using even a slight hezzy. I know people might care. I'm not saying for RJ Barrett become a hezzy god, but essentially reading a defender's missteps and using another dribble, a counter to attack it to get a better angle at the rim or towards the rim, using dribble counters to get into advantageous positions in terms of using the body leverage to hit off bounce and throw up the fadeaway jumper. Some we saw RJ use against Team Germany, but again, during the regular season with the Knicks, for his career with the Knicks, haven't seen it nearly enough. Even using a spin move, attacking off the left, which everybody knows RJ Barrett loves to do. Attack off the left. Would love to see him learn, be ingrained with the spin move, driving from the left and spinning towards the right for the layup, and finishing with the right. Something that does that to start the season. That's not going to be in a lot of scouts, a lot of team scout books, because RJ Barrett just doesn't do that enough. Even though he does attack with the right at times, he favors the left. But a spin move off the left to the right would definitely find some team surprise. And there's one move I did advocate for RJ Barrett to use. It's the Jimmy shimmy, as they call it, because Jimmy Butler has popularized this, or the shimmy jab or the rocker. Allows you to attack off the jab and go. It's a move that's largely predicated off of using and shifting your weight on the proper foot, the right time against the defender, depending on how the defender reacts. And there's so many variations that RJ could exploit. But even on a base level, RJ Barrett used a Jimmy jab to exploit defenders off of screens. And RJ Barrett, a fifth of his possessions last year came off of screens. If his scoring possession came off of screens. And for a screen-heavy guard, it only makes sense. The rocker step allows RJ Barrett too many possibilities off the dribble, too many opportunities for counters to exploit defenders, and where he can catch the defender hesitating initially, gets a half a step on the defender, and gets a better angle at the rim for the finish, can catch the defender over aggressively playing one side and misstepping, and again creating a lot more space for RJ Barrett to operate towards the rim. Have the defenses now guessing and being aggressive and trying to stop RJ Barrett with their help, which then allows a lot more possibilities to facilitate to teammates on the outside or rolling towards the basket. The rocket step does not need a player to be exceptionally fast or speedy, just to need to be smart and be able to exploit defenders with your brain, which RJ Barrett is more than capable of using. There are a lot of angles for RJ Barrett to improve upon to become that coveted, efficient 20 to 25 point scorer a night guy. And I'm not necessarily looking for him to do that. I'm looking for him to become more efficient, more impactful on the floor on both ends. And I think a counter move, or learning how to counter better, especially for how much he attacks the basket, will open up doors for RJ. RJ Barrett can take the next step if he learns how to use counters properly to exploit his defenders, at the very least create an opportunity to play make for others if the defenders just beat him to the basket. Why force up shots when you can make a possible or potential assist to your teammates to still get the damn bucket that you're looking for in the first place? My son RJ. Now next up is Immanuel Quickley, the 3-year guard from UK, who's definitely turning some heads with a solid play in the regular season, especially in the second half last year. But he did have a stinker of a playoffs, only averaging around 9 points a game off of 35% shooting, 24% from 3 in 8 games. But like I said, in the second half of the season, he definitely showed some people that he could possibly be a starting guard in this league, even though I still think he right now is his best position as an off guard next to a gravity player like a Jalen Brunson. But he is starting to make some people question whether he can reach that next level as a starting guard in this league. He's a guy who's shown some solid perimeter defense, some solid to even elite perimeter defense, shall I say, starting from his rookie season. The ability to catch and shoot, the ability to catch and attack from the corner, from the wing, to run the pick and roll. He's even showing some mid-range ability just to kind of offset the reliance on that floater, especially his rookie season, and also showing the ability to play make for others. The only thing, or not, let me not say the only thing, but one of the things I think is holding him back is his ability to attack and create off of the left hand. Now, IQ typically looks effective off the catch and attacks where he can use an over-aggressive defender closing out on him to either attack the basket, get to a spot for the mid-range if the help defense gets to the paint or the rim in time. And so he typically looks effective in those spots, but there are many times when he has to attack in isolation or use screens, and he favors his left, he looks relatively weak and limited. Now, people may see this as not a big deal, but I believe that this is what's kind of holding him back as a player who could operate without another gravity star next to him like a Jalen Brunson who could take away smart and capable defenders. Now, I'm going to show a few examples of IQ attacking off of the left, whether it's off the pick and roll, isolation from the wing, the top of the key, where his left just doesn't seem as tight as his right-handed dribble. Now here, IQ catches the pass from Fournier. His defender closes out. You got Taj with the help. You got some tag defense. And look at here. He gathers the dribble relatively early because he wants to protect that left. Now, we've seen IQ have really shifty dribble with the right. You kind of get that wound whap, kind of crossover from the right to the left in tight spaces, kind of hesitate, and then get into second gear and explode again off the dribble. But here with the left, he gathers because the left is just not as strong. Now he's stuck in no man's land, picked up his dribble, didn't even look to really try and shoot the shot after Taj helps out, and Taj backs up. IQ stuck in no man's land, turnover. Now here's an example of IQ versus the Pelicans. He has Dyson Daniels as his main defender, Larry Nance underneath on the screen. Jericho Sims comes to sets the screen. Where you see IQ doesn't really explode off that left and challenge Larry Nance, who is an athlete in his own right. But IQ really doesn't put any pressure on him to try to draw a foul for Hezzy with the dribble or the fake once he stops. And he allows Dyson Daniels to get back on defense. Larry Nance to go back to kind of waiting back onto Jericho Sims. IQ tries to push up for a lame jumper. He had a lot of time on the clock. And Dyson Daniels is a really solid, really good defender in his own right. But IQ really provided no threat, no real pressure in the situation where he at least had a decent screen by Jericho Sims, had some right away on the left to attack Larry Nance, which we've seen him do once he gets a screen when he's attacking on the right. But here, IQ really provided no threat against Larry Nance off the screen, allowed Dyson to get back, and it pushes off for a lame jumper that ends up missing off the rim and the backboard. Just look at IQ's numbers this past season when he attacks off the left. When looking at his isolation numbers, when at the top of the key, he's 3 for 5 when driving left, but 17 for 31 when driving right. And when attacking from the right side of the court, he's 1 for 2 attacking left, but he's 4 for 10 attacking right. When attacking from the left side ISO, he was 0 for 0 from the field when driving left, but 6 for 20 when driving right. And it doesn't stop there. When he's using screens in the pick and roll, he's 13 for 32 when using the screen from the left side, but 20 for 52 when driving off the right side screen in the pick and roll. And when driving on the baseline off of screens, he's 8 for 21 when attacking off of screens on the right side, but only 1 for 11 when attacking baseline off the left side pick and roll. 8 for 21 isn't great, but that's almost double in attempts from the left to the right side baseline attacks off of screens, which probably means he has hesitation in attacking off the dribble in tight spaces with the left hand when the baseline becomes a possible trap. IQ is going to have to learn how to be adept on both the left and on the right, or teams are going to start to game plan against him, and he's going to be, I won't say relegated, but probably showing his best ability as an off guard who needs a gravity player out there. And there's nothing wrong with that, but if IQ is looking at those big dollars and thinking that he can lead a team, he's going to have to be a lot better on the left side. Next up is Quentin Grimes, a budding 3-and-D guard who's taking some strides and improving his game. And again, look, if he stays a 3-and-D guy, that'd be more than fine. Just be efficient. But I believe there's one part of his game that he could definitely improve upon, and he spoke about improving upon this part of his game recently, and that's shooting off of the dribble. Now, last year he shot 16 for 70 off of all dribble jumpers, which is good for 22.9%, which ain't good at all. And many times out there, he looked frazzled when he caught the ball on the outside and had to reset the play and kind of create something anew once a defender kind of closed out on him off of a kick-out pass to Grimes in the corner at the wing. And if he didn't have a clear shot at the rim and he had to take that mid-range shot or shoot that shot off the dribble, many times he kind of looked frazzled, kind of playing faster than what the game or that play kind of needed. Now, here's an example of Quentin Grimes shooting one of those shots where he just seems to be going a little bit off pace from the rest of the team. It looks like as if they wanted to set the offense up through Julius Randle at the top of the key or beyond the top of the key. Grimes kind of in a world of his own, bringing up the ball, doesn't pass it to anybody, which is typically a bad sign for a guy who's not a number one or at least a number two scoring option. And Quentin Grimes bringing up the ball,
has Jeremy Soulshine on him. Tries to get the crossover. Mitchell Robinson ends up setting a screen up for him. He gets a little bit of space, gets into the paint. Now switches on to Jakob Poeltl and takes a fadeaway jumper. With all that time on the clock, absolutely no real opportunity for the offense to try to even get in position to really crash the boards or get into a feel of a half-court offense. Quentin Grimes on the fast breaks, and this is a game that Knicks lost to the Spurs. A surprising game he lost to the Spurs as well, too, because Spurs is not doing well at that point in the season. And again, Grimes is rushing things off the dribble. Again, the form and whatnot is not bad. It's just maybe, again, the rhythm, the feel, given the fact that he doesn't get these opportunities a lot. And again, when you get in these situations where you're trying to force shots, you're not really going through the motions of the flows, the natural flows of a half-court offense. And so you just look out of sorts. And it's tough to sit up there and say he's going to get a lot more of these touches just because he's not a primary or even secondary option. But this just overall just goes to show you that he's out of rhythm. He's not a guy who typically is going to get these opportunities. So he took it, didn't look good at all whatsoever. Even decision-making in terms of trying to get to that spot was just not good. I mean, he gets enough space against Jakob, but just not within any type of rhyme or reason or rhythm, given the amount of time on the clock, given the fact that I think they wanted the offense to go through Randall at that in this play. And it just looks like a play out of sorts, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Here he has Rui Hachimura, of the Washington Wizards, or formerly of the Washington Wizards, now with the Lakers, on him in a 1v1 situation. Quentin Grimes gets the ball from IQ near the top of the key. Looks like he wants to get to that pinch to shoot the shot, step back jumper, but Roy does a really good job of closing out on him. Again, Quentin Grimes. Everything seems fine in terms of him trying to get to that spot. Maybe he does a little dribble back to the right to catch Roy, get a little bit more space off a crossover as Roy's kind of moving his hips towards Grimes' left to kind of contest that shot, knowing or feeling that that shot was going to go up at that time. Again, only 4 seconds left on the shot clock, but Grimes maybe has one more opportunity to cross it over or just pass it to Ihart in the corner. That probably wasn't the best of looks from Quentin Grimes. If he had the ball more in his hands, maybe he makes that shot, because again, the shot actually did cleanly go off. It wasn't blocked, it wasn't tipped by Roy, but just a tough shot nonetheless, especially when you don't have the ball in your hands that much. But if you look at his 2 years at Houston, he did shoot relatively well off of dribble jumpers. He went 31 for 67, which is good for 46.3% from the field in his first year in Houston. Second year, took a lot more shots, 54 for 156, which is good for 34.6%. Obviously, not as good as his first year, but still a decent metric. Low efficiency. Obviously, at times you saw flashes of his ability to get to his spots, to hit off the defender, whether it be a push-off and a step back or even a fadeaway off of leveraging defenders. And the biggest hindrance to Quentin Grimes developing the same trajectory as he had in college is usage rate. He's never had a usage rate under 18% throughout college, even in his year in Kansas. Meanwhile, with the Knicks, he had a usage rate of 15% his first year, 14.4% his second year. And then his 2 years in Houston, he had a usage rate of 24% his first year, 27% in his second year. So how do you get a guy who probably needs the ball in his hands to get comfortable shooting off the dribble, to get into that rhythm? And I think that one way that could help him is to operate him more in the pick and roll. And the reason why I say the pick and roll is because in an offense that allow Quentin Grimes to shoot off the dribble without jacking up his usage and compromising other players on the floor. It allow Quentin Grimes to play interchangeably at the guard position, whether on and off the ball, spell guys like Jalen Brunson some vital minutes, allow those guys to come back in fresh, and Quentin Grimes be able to get back into that trajectory in terms of being comfortable shooting off the dribble like we saw at the University of Houston. Now, granted, with the Knicks last season, he didn't shoot well off the pick and roll, shot 6 for 21 as a pick and roll ball handler, which is good for 28.6%, but he was only the pick and roll ball handler in only 3.6% of all his possessions. It's a small sample size, because if you look at his last year in college with the Houston Cougars, he averaged around 0.98 points per possession off the pick and roll, which is good for the 80th percentile in college, his senior season. So again, there are some flashes. There's somewhat of a foundation there in terms of being able to shoot off the dribble. And even when you watch his game, it's not as if his jumper is truly broken off the dribble. But this deficiency, I won't say deficiency, but this area of improvement in terms of shooting off the dribble and even operating on the ball and off the ball in regards to screens is something that Quentin Grimes
talked about in an article. He stated that he's, over the summer saying just been getting a lot more comfortable with the ball in my hands in the offseason, making plays for myself and my teammates, making more plays off the dribble, shooting off the dribble. Grimes said, taking my defense to another notch. I guard the best player almost every night. Really just trying to be more consistent, try to be in the best shape possible. And like I said, there were many times last year we looked frazzled, catching, attacking. If you have a clear spot at the rim, if you didn't have that shot open enough for him to take because the defender closed out effectively on him, he looked a little frazzled, looked a little all over the place at times, trying to create something anew. And then he talked about working with J.J. Redick. I believe he worked with him for 2 days this summer. Said he was soaking in some game from a guy in J.J. Redick who went from being a star guard with Duke, who then struggled finding his way on and off the ball with the Magic, and then kind of found his way afterwards with the Clippers and the Pelicans and other teams afterwards as a guy who can operate on and off the ball, work off of screens, became a really good sniper. And I believe he never shot below 40% from three for his NBA career, which is astounding. But Quentin Grimes stated that got in a real good workout with him, picking his brain about how he comes off pick and rolls, down screens, pin downs, floppy actions. Grimes said, really just try to take as much as I can from him and incorporate it into this upcoming season. And so even with when you look at a guy like Quentin Grimes, it will be tough with all the guys on the team, the Dante DiVincenzo's, the RJ Barretts, the Immanuel Quickley's, the Jalen Brunson's, the Josh Harts. It will be hard to sit up there and try to game plan and operate a larger chunk of the offense through Quentin Grimes operating a pick and roll. But I believe Tom Thibodeau should try to bridge the gap in terms of what we kind of saw at the University of Houston and what Quentin Grimes and the team thinks he can do off the dribble and off of screens by trying to incorporate a little bit more DHO, a little bit more off-ball action to get guys like Quentin Grimes and IQ open. Also up to Grimes to take the possessions he has and take what he's learned this summer, glean from what he can from J.J. Redick, try to package that and be more effective in the spots that he does have, especially early on in the season where Tom Thibodeau's still trying to shape out the offense. And so by, say, the second half of the season where things become a little bit streamlined, the roster becomes a little bit shorter, Quentin Grimes can be a staple as a secondary, even tertiary ball handler who can operate the pick and roll, can shoot off the dribble, and create offense away from Jalen Brunson. Last but not least is Mitchell Robinson, and this one is obvious as hell. It's your free throw shooting, and more specifically, your free throw form. Mitchell Robinson, come on, my guy. You've never shot above 60% from the free throw line. You shot 48% last year, and you want more touches in the NBA, in a practical NBA offense. Come on, my guy. And sadly enough, Mitchell Robinson was 11th in free throw draw rate last season. Now, granted, he didn't shoot a lot of free throws because, again, he's not a major part of the offense. But when he did, was he truly efficient? Was he really effective in making players pay for fouling him? No. And when you look at the rest of the NBA, Mitchell Robinson, look at the numbers, man. Guys who are shooting below 50% for the free throw line do not get featured. When you look at last season's numbers, when looking at people who've played at least 30 games last year and had a free throw percentage of 50% or less, the guy who came out in terms of the highest amount of field goal attempts a game, the guy who came out was Kendrick Williams of OKC at 6.5 attempts a game. You came out fourth, Mitch Robinson, at 4.7 a game. It just goes to show you that guys who shoot poorly from the line do not get featured in the NBA. I know causation is not correlation, but again, am I trusting you to operate when you don't even really have the post-up skills, Mitchell Robinson? You don't really have the isolation skills. Am I going to sit up there and try to develop them when at the bare minimum you can't hit your free throw shots effectively because your shot is tight broken? Come on. It's not because Tom Thibodeau hates Mitchell Robinson or hates the kids, which is a dumb narrative given the fact that he's developed young players from in his past as well as on the current Knicks roster. It's because you don't have a practical NBA game for me to sit up there and have you in ISO, have you in the post-up. You just don't, Mitch Robinson. I can't have you on the outside to shoot shots. It's just not going to happen because your free throw shot is broken. It's a quick, ugly release. It's like you're trying to use the laws of physics to empower you and rush the shot to the basket versus actually using a proper load up, be able to release, use the wrist properly, use the tip of your fingers properly. You just don't do that. Line drive jumper or line drive free throw shots, there's no real good arc on it. Every time you shoot a free throw shot, people are hoping and praying, is gasping in the air because your shot is broken. And I'm not an expert, but you truly need to deconstruct that shot. And I thought that last time you got hurt, I thought that'd be a perfect opportunity for you to do so. Didn't really see much development from it. So hopefully, Mitch Robinson, you invest in yourself to get somebody who could truly deconstruct your jumper and at least have you shooting 70% from the free throw line. And and at that point, I think Tom Thibodeau might start to trust you and believe that you are working on your fundamentals, which he talked about since the first year he got here with your game, working on fundamentals and free throw shooting. For a guy with that free throw draw rate, that every time he goes up with alley-oop, he's gonna be physical at the rim, to dunk, to finish, get to the foul line. My G, just telling you, man, you gotta improve that free throw shooting, gotta improve that shot form. But guys, let me know what you think on this video. Do you think I was too harsh? Do you think I was wrong? Do you think I was wayward with the areas of improvement I set out for the 4 players of our so-called young core? Are you seeing any changes from guys like RJ Barrett's playing these FIBA games, who had that ridiculous game against Germany on Sunday, I believe it was? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit the dark notification bell to get each and every notification for each and every video I put out there. And also remember, go to underdogfantasy.com to start betting big, especially with this NBA season coming near. Make sure to use the code Legion or LOK to get up to $100 matched off your first deposit on Underdog Fantasy. Underdog, is the dog under you? Again, I'm sorry for being so corny, but guys, I appreciate you guys being here. Peace through, God bless. I'll see you guys in the next one.